Hello and welcome back to Russ Plays Games. My name is Russ, and as you can see, we are arrayed in front of my paint station. Um, I am going to be posting up as of this video. I'm going to be posting up the last one of these that I did, and I completely blew it when I recorded before. I completely blew it. And so I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm stupid. What am I thinking? Um, and so I kind of took a look around, took some stock, and I went by my local game store and I purchased a couple of miniatures to paint for you guys to kind of make up for it. Okay. And one of them, so I picked up um, the Reptus Warrior from Warlord, um, Linnell Half Elf Rogue, and a Pillar of Evil. Okay. Now, the reason for this is in the Warlord rules, you can have a totem of battle. And the totem of battle can be anything. It can be an altar, it can be a pillar, it can be something, it can be a statue, it can be whatever you want it to be. Okay. And it has to be something that represents your faction's, stuff. So there's a pillar of evil, which is what I have right here, and there's a pillar of good. Okay, the pillar of evil looks like this. Okay, and it has some little reapers. It's got some skulls. It's got some nooks and crannies. It's got some funky looking runes along the bottom edge. Pretty cool. And I was also kind of thinking about doing a Overlord army, and so I bought this gal. Okay, and basically this is the character of Linnell Half Elf Rogue. She's 77387 for bones, and basically I'm going to use her as a different figure. There's a character in the actual game of Warlord who's part of the Overlord's army, and she's part of the Assassin's Guild. And I found an actual an actual figure that was of the original Dark Heaven Legends metal line. And I thought, hey, that would be kind of cool. She'd look really neat. But she was kind of expensive. I don't have a whole lot of money right now. And so I decided that I could use a different character as a substitute, and nobody's gonna know, nobody's gonna care, right? And so this is who I'm using, and I'll post up down below who it is, and I'll have like a little thing saying who it is. And that's who I'm gonna do. And then I bought this Reptus Warrior guy. Okay. And he's kind of a funky looking like reptile dude. Okay. Now I may have done this wrong. I don't know, but I may have actually done that wrong because I think he might actually do that. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know. I'll have to figure him out. So I'm not too worried about him right at the moment. Okay. I'll figure him out. And then this is the shield that he comes with. So he comes as a multi-part. He's got his head that snaps on, that glues onto his body, and then he's got the shield that glues onto his arm. So the arm is right down here in front, okay? and it's basically this section right here, and it glues sort of like that somehow, like that. Okay. And so I'll figure him out. I'm not too worried about it at this juncture. Okay. Now, while these need time to dry, because it takes about 24 hours or so for Mod Podge to cure, all that good stuff. I have this. Now, I mentioned this before, but I purchased the Dungeons and Dragons Advent Calendar, which it came in a little thing, and it had like all these different miniatures in it. Okay, and I've since painted up a few. Some of them are still sitting around here somewhere. That I've used for various things. Because they want people to see that it's like, hey, we have this Advent calendar for Dungeons and Dragons, and it was pretty cool. Well, this guy is like a leaping, like undead person. I don't know if he's like bursting out of the ground or what he is, but I'll paint him for right now. Now, to kind of show you some of the things that I've done in the last couple of weeks. This is one of the serpents from that's actually part of the Sword and Sorcery, and he's an actual green monster, like the giant spiders. But I thought that might be kind of fun to paint him up, and kind of when he hits the table in the Let's Play of Sword and Sorcery, it'll be really cool when he finally does. Just to kind of show you a little bit of a preview of him, that's what he looks like normally. That's the card. Okay, so you can see I sort of painted him like it. It's a little bit different, and I also put on the back, I put these two little like eyelets, because if you know anything about like king cobras and stuff like that, they have that sort of a feature about them. And what's really cool is I actually painted like a little dark line around the greenish yellow. And then I also, it's kind of hard to see, but I also added a little bit of some green, like metallic paint to his fangs and to the tip of his tail as like a venom. Okay, because they're venomous. And I painted the inside of his mouth with the, I don't know if I have it on the table here, but I painted the inside of his mouth with that pink, the same pink that I colored RC with. And then painted his tongue red, and then, again, painted his fangs white. And I also painted his eyes with the green metallic color as well. So I painted him up. And then, just on a lark, I haven't based him yet, but I painted up a Soldier of Rohan miniature from the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game, because I wanted to see how they look. I wanted to try the shield, I wanted to try, some of the various, parts of it, and I wanted to see how it looked when I got done painting it. And I think this is probably the best job I've done on a horse in a long time. I haven't shaded it, and I haven't, highlighted it or anything, but I did kind of do a little bit of highlight on the tail and on the mane, just to kind of give it a little bit of a, like he's running kind of a thing. And then I also painted up the little tuft that you get, because this thing comes with 2 holes in the bottom, okay? And one is for the horse, and the other, they give you this little tuft. and you glue the tuft into the hole, and you glue the horse down, and then it gives you that ability to be able to do things. And then I also painted the little hoof on, the little horseshoes on his hooves and everything. So I think he turned out pretty well. Again, I haven't like shaded him or anything like that. This is just a base coat that I did. I'm pretty happy with it. And then, because I've done this with several of my Weapons and Warriors characters, okay, they come in blue and red. I painted them up for various things, and because I've done it, I had these commanders, and I thought, well, for this Lord of the Rings strategy battle game, the figures are just about the right size for Weapons and Warriors. Why wouldn't I? So I went ahead and I painted up the commanders of each army, and I figured I could throw them in, for various reasons, whatever, doesn't matter. I could just throw them in as extra miniatures if I wanted to, or I could even throw them in with another, um, thing. So that's just some of the paint stuff that I've done. And so, without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our friend, this little leaping guy. Okay? Because I've been talking about painting him up for a while. I figured I'm here, might as well, why not? So, one of the things that I found out is that I've completely blown through about 3 or 4 different paint brushes, and so I am on to a brand new paintbrush for this one. Okay, actually, I think what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to use this. Alright, because we're going to use quite a bit of it, I'm going to dump some of it in there, because I think it'll be easier to paint that way, just because it is what it is. Alrighty, you. Let's see what I'm going to do with you. This is one of the things I've been kind of agonizing over is what am I going to do with this guy? Because he's kind of undead. Oh no. Too much paint. Hate when that happens. Shoot. Shoot, shoot, shoot. I got way too much paint on the paintbrush for that. He's gonna look like a one-eyed pirate. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Let me see if we can't this over here so that it doesn't bother us. Get him. Let me just poke your eye hole here. Oh, just come back and get the rest of you. That's good. Okay. Now we're gonna have to do a little bit of damage control, but it's not the end of the world. I just got a little bit too much on the brush. That was my fault. Now, basically what I'm doing here is I'm getting a nice, neat line paint along his little rib structure here. I'm trying to get his rib cage to make somewhat sense. I'm not sure if he's a zombie or if he's like an actual. I don't know exactly what he is. So he is a zombie. I'm going to have to go back and redo some of it to make him a little bit different. Alrighty, there we go. That's a little better. Much better. That time we got your. That time we got you. Alrighty. I was actually watching the old Canon Films version of Masters of the Universe, Dolph Lundgren and all them, Franklin and Jello. And so it kind of got me inspired when I was thinking about coming over here and doing this. I was like, no, that was kind of an interesting little movie. Why don't we do something like that, like the Skeletor type person here? Maybe not as despotic, but still, very much. Very much the Skeletor type. Over. I have to go back over his hands there to try to clean them up a little bit. Because they're an interesting thing about that movie was Courtney Cox, who was in the movie. She did she was dancing in a Dancing in the Dark video from Bruce Springsteen back in the day, and that was kind of how she was discovered, actually, is because people were, kind of some of the people that were doing, that were talent scouts were kind of amazed at her audacity to jump up on stage like that and dance around with Bruce Springsteen. So they found out who she was, and they started, and they started trying to find out more about her and like what was she, you know, that was how she was discovered. And then she played in a few movies, and then she was in the mid to late '80s, and then she went on the Friends show and blew up in popularity. I just thought that was always interesting that she was discovered by Hollywood scouts because she danced on stage with the boss. That was funny. This guy kind of has festering arms, so I'm trying to use my linen here. Where's it? Yeah, it's linen. Color here to kind of give him sort of putrefying flesh color on his arms here, and I'll probably do the same thing on his legs because his legs kind of have the same type. The interesting thing is he's got two daggers. I don't know if you could see that really, but he has like two daggers, but they're not in each of his hands. Like he's kind of holding on to them as if they were like one dagger, but there's two daggers, which is kind of odd. So, you know, I guess it is what it is. You know, take what you can get, I guess. What's also interesting about the Masters, the original Masters of the Universe, was Robert Duncan McNeill, who was most famously Tom Paris on Star Trek Voyager, was in that movie. I don't think most people realize that. And that was actually how I believe he got discovered by the talent scouts that put him out on Star Trek The Next Generation. Because most people know that before he did the 7 seasons of Voyager, he was very briefly on, was it fifth or sixth season episode of Next Generation. And I'm trying to remember the episode name, but it was basically these whole bunch of different cadets who were involved in an accident, and Wesley Crusher was one of them. And like their squadron leader, played by Robert Duncan McNeill, his name was Nicholas Locarno at that time, which a lot of people in that, you know, because the episode featured him, and then a little bit later he was in a penal colony for being part of the Maquis revolution, and so a lot of people thought that, well, maybe Nicholas Locarno was Tom Paris. And Robert Duncan McNeill himself actually came out and said, no, they are two different characters. They never really met or anything. They were just, you know, they just had bad luck, both of them. Except for Tom Paris. Tom Paris only had bad luck up until he got on Voyager. And he started having good luck, even though he was in the Delta Quadrant 90% of the time. But yeah, that was kind of how he was discovered by the talent scouts. Is because in 1987, when that premiered, he was in that when Next Gen premiered. Robert Duncan McNeill was in that movie, and a few years later, they ended up using him in that episode, and then they ended up using him again when he did the Voyager. So, all right, I think what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to this to be like rotting away. Like some of it's rotting away, some of it's not. He's wearing pants, but some of it is rotting away. It's kind of weird. It's very, very interesting. But when I show it to you, you'll understand. Okay. So let me toss this on there, and then I will wash this off. Okay. So pretty much you can see his arms. Okay. And what happened was when I was doing this side of his face, I was doing this side of his face. I actually got a little bit too much on the paintbrush, and I ended up getting it in this eye, okay, socket, and so I had to go back and put a little bit of black in there, and then go back and put some white in there. But you can kind of see here where I've painted up a little bit of rotting flesh in here and in here, because he has pants, but the pants are kind of ripped because he's decaying. Okay, he's kind of a skeletal zombie. Like he's not. Yeah, it's not the typical. It's not the typical skeleton that you're used to seeing. It's very, very different. So, I have to decide when I want to paint all of that energy down there. I'm going to do something funky with it or not. I don't know. Alrighty, well, I think we're going to do is paint the blades. Oh, and you're probably wondering, probably seen on my mat here that I have a little bit of some spills, some different stuff. Well, I'll show you one other project that I've been doing for a while. The Osgiliath Ruins. I'm really proud of these. And you can kind of see that on this side, there's a little bit of a difference between the down here and up here. Okay, and that's because I went and I covered the whole thing green. Whole thing gray. And then I went back and I covered the whole thing in Agradax Earthshade. Okay. Then I came back and I kind of highlighted everything. Okay, I dry brushed everything, so you can kind of see where a lot of the highlights and a lot of that stuff is. Now, over here where you see the really dark, this is Nuln Oil. Okay, but as you can see, I'm out of Agradax because I used it all for this. And I painted the whole thing. I painted it except for under there, because nobody's really going to ever see that. Okay? And the same thing down under here. And I basically went through and I colored everything, and I tried to go back and kind of highlight some different things, and I'm going to finish doing some dry brushing on the bottom here. I just haven't gotten around to it for various reasons. And then I also have, I've primed it, but I haven't actually painted it yet because I'm out of Agradax Earthshade, and my local game store didn't have any Agradax Earthshade. But this is the other part of the Osgiliath Ruins. Okay, so if you've been watching the Zorpazorp channel, he's been doing an Osgiliath build. He did an Osgiliath build for a ton of years. Then he tore the whole board down when he got the idea for doing the massive, basically from Anduin through the Osgiliath Ruins, all the way across the Pelennor Fields, and all the way up into Minas Tirith. Okay, he wanted to have a game board that encompassed everything from basically the Anduin River, okay, through Osgiliath, the western half of Osgiliath, western half of Osgiliath, all the way through the Pelennor Fields, and then all the way up to the first wall of Minas Tirith. Okay, his idea was to have this game board that was this huge ruin, and if you saw his latest video on this, it actually he has some archways that look a lot like this, because Games Workshop has recently reintroduced the Osgiliath. They actually have a new box set for the Lord of the Rings strategy battle game, Middle Earth strategy battle game, I should say. That is called the Battle for Osgiliath, and like two of the factions that you get inside of that is you get the orcs, the Mordor orcs, and you can get some men of Gondor, like Faramir's Rangers and stuff like that. And they've released some brand new battle hosts and some new things, and so they're really trying to, they're really trying to rebrand the Middle Earth strategy battle game back to Middle Earth, back to Lord of the Rings, which is kind of how it started, and I think that's kind of cool that they're doing that. And so the Osgiliath Ruins set, which comprises the main piece, the other piece here, this one with all the arches on it, and the small little staircase that I've shown off before, and then the two statues. And then, if you remember, when I showed off the statue that was ruined on the ground, and then like the big chunk of pillar, and like there was something else. They've basically taken those pieces from the Return of the King set, and they've put that into that ruin set, and they call it the Middle Earth Ruin set now. And so, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to brand the Middle Earth strategy battle game as being in Middle Earth. No matter where you're at, you can use that ruin set. You can use it as Dale, you can use it as Osgiliath, you can use it as Minas Tirith, you can use it wherever you want. You can use it, because they have like the Elven Ruins on that little top in the Fellowship of the Ring when the Fellowship is passing by, and then there's that little outcropping with the little ruins on it. You could use that, and you could fight in those ruins. You could use it for Dol Guldur. You could use it for whatever you want. Okay? So, we'll be back in 1 second, getting on almost 35 minutes here, so I'm going to go ahead and stop, and then we'll come back, and we'll continue painting this guy. So, be back in just a second. And we're back. So, yeah, as I was saying right before we had to stop there, was that Loki there for Zerpazorp. He's doing some he's doing some giveaways for the new battle hosts for that, because I guess Games Workshop, I don't know if he ordered them or if Games Workshop kind of gave him some to be able to do that. I have no idea, but he is giving away some of those battle hosts for Middle Earth strategy battle game. There's Rohan, there's Isengard, which is like, and these battle hosts are not just like random figures. They're like, there's Rohan, which has some riders, it has some people on foot, and I believe they have, and I haven't really looked at them, but I believe they have some, so they'll have some guys on foot like this, they'll have some guys on horseback like this for Rohan, I mean, they'll be at the scale, and then like Isengard will have a lot of these guys, and they'll have some wargs, and they'll have some different things like that. And the Mordor battle host will have, some different things about it, and how it works and all that kind of stuff. So there's truly some very very different um, parts to it, to the battle host. So it's not just, oh, we get a random couple of figures here and there. It's we actually get some pretty cool um, figures for the Lord of the Rings or the Middle Earth strategy battle game for it. So if you're looking into it, you might want to take a look in and see what Games Workshop has to offer in that respect if you're interested in the Middle Earth strategy battle game. And I'm only doing the Lord of the Rings because for me it's too expensive to go out and buy all of the, different things. And like I saw that on Eric's Hobby Workshop, they had a a thing for um, he's been doing a build over the last like couple of months of a new kill team table for the new Warhammer 40k kill team, which is, you use figures like this, but you don't have to buy thousands of figures. You just buy, or thousands of dollars worth of figures. You just buy a few figures and you can, play. It's a small scale skirmish battle instead of large scale skirmish battle. And one of the things was that he was given a new, an advanced kind of a prototype of the new kill team. And the interesting thing was, I went down to my local game store when I was there the other day buying these figures. I went down there and I looked at it and I went, holy crap, that thing's expensive. It's 210 US dollars. I was like, holy crap, that is insane. Like, I can't afford that. I mean, would I love to? Yes, but not at that price. I'm not, no. I'm not going to buy that. That is too much. Right, so now I need to make, you know what? I think I'm going to do this. Because this guy has a little bit more of a decayed look about him. I'm going to give him some green pants. But I'm going to give him dark green pants because they're going to look muted in color. Because on the last one, when I was doing the Sir Ragnar figure, Sir Ragnar, had been a prisoner for a while, and so my reasoning for coloring him the way that I did was because he'd been a prisoner for a long time. So, prisoners don't really have access to showers and various things like that. So, he's going to be a little dirty. He's going to look a little icky. A little rough around the edges. Once I shade this guy in, he'll kind of look the same way. That's a little down the line yet. We're not there yet with that. Alright, you paint, get in there. Piece of junk. Got some funky looking things. His legs. I'm not quite sure what they are yet. I'll end up painting them brown, but I'm not sure exactly what they are. Kind of funky. Like I said, once I get this guy all painted up, shaded and everything, then he'll start to make a little bit more sense. It's just making decisions. What paint do I want where? How do I want the paint to look? What do I want it to look like it's finished? Kind of imagining this guy like bursting forth from the ground. So maybe we'll say this is a Halloween special. Since as of filming this in 2022, it's close to Halloween. So I'll try to get this guy painted up and get this up before October 31st. And we'll call it the Halloween special. How's that? Would that make all y'all happy? You don't have to answer that. I know you guys would be happy. You guys would be like, yes. Russ plays games. Finally did a Halloween special. I'm just teasing. But we can call this guy a Halloween special because he is sort of a, he's very much a very scary looking dude. In terms of what he is. I mean, he's just kind of a zombie-ish looking person. And probably what I'll end up doing, because some of his, I'm not sure if that's armor on his, maybe that is armor on his arms. Kind of up here. That might be armor. But anyway, I'll figure that out later. I'm not worried about it right this minute. But basically, when I'm doing these mini painting tutorials, I'm really not doing it for, just the clicks. I really want you guys to follow along and, get something out of it. Hopefully, you can get something out of it. And I've gotten some feedback from some people that have said, hey, I've been looking at trying to be, trying to start miniatures painting, and I, kind of watched a couple videos on YouTube, and I really didn't understand, and, your videos really helped me, keep at it. I was like, thank you for letting me know, because that makes me feel better, because now I know that at least some people are, getting some value out of these, miniatures, paint videos. So that helps. So, if I've helped, please, by all means, let me know. Because, I just want to make sure that I'm doing this right, and that, you guys are understanding. See, that's the darker gray, I want the lighter gray. So I just want to make sure that, you guys are getting the right, getting the right stuff. Now, sometimes when I put a color on, and you guys go, wait a minute, what's he doing? Thought you said you didn't want that color because it's too bright. And, well, sometimes that's true. Sometimes that's true. But sometimes we do it because it actually helps us. We have a darker color. We want it to show up a little bit better. Okay. Then we want to put a lighter color underneath. And I think you all know what color I mean when I do this. Well, there's only two colors I use with this. Normally, if I'm using one color, I'm not using gray. So you can probably figure what color is coming. Well, that's right. Alright, don't need to worry about that part of it because that one will paint a different shade. This side, I definitely want to make it a certain way. It's not essential to get every single nook and cranny when you're doing this kind of a thing, if you're going for the same effect that I'm going for. And also leaving some of the nooks and crannies a little bit left out can enhance the deepness of the color. And so I'm not going for a full-on like penetration of color here. Okay, I'm literally just going for more of a like general coverage. Because I'm going to want a little bit of this color, but I don't want so much that it's going to make it too bright. If that makes sense. Okay. Well, that dries. Okay. Let me reach around and grab onto this guy. Hurrah. Oh yeah, you know what time it is. Now, with this color, we can actually make it that it's a little bit different. So, because what I'm going to do is, and here again, I'm not going to go like all hands on deck with this color. I'm going to want to leave it somewhat dark. in places. So when you put it on, let it sort of bleed off of your let it sort of bleed off of your brush so that it goes on fairly dark. Lets a lot of that color out. Because in doing so, when you let a lot of that color out, you let a lot of the translucency of the paint do the work for you. And so you end up with a fairly muted color rather than a bright color. And if we truly wanted it to be bright, we would paint like 2 or 3 coats, right? So we don't necessarily want that. We want it to be muted. And there might be parts of it that are, don't be afraid to let parts of it be brighter than others, okay? Because that kind of gives it a little bit of a, like a fadedness to it. You see how that works? Where it's not exactly like 100% bright color, but it's not exactly, truly dark. It's kind of in between, and that's what we're looking for. And so when it finally shakes out, it will be a very, very muted color, okay? Because a lot of that black undercoat is going to show through. And that's, I think, what I was trying to get by when I was doing the when I was doing the color for when I was doing the tunic on Sir Ragnar, I was trying to get that across, is that it's going on and it's kind of bright, but when it dries, because we're kind of running the paint thin, when it dries, it's going to be very muted. And I didn't even add any shade to it. It's just that dark because I let the paint kind of bleed through. I let the undercoat bleed through. So I left the paint very thin. So I put enough on to bring it down to give it this sort of a translucency to it. Okay. Now, I'm using my ultramarine blue, okay? And this is a very, very deep, dark blue, okay? Which is why we put the gray undercoat, okay? And so we're probably going to need a couple coats of this to really build up the color, because the first coat is not going to be that dark, okay? It'll be dark, but it won't be super dark. We want that dark, rich blue color, okay? And so that's why I was like, we don't need to have a full, like bright, rich gray color, because that color will create too much. It'll make it too bright, which we don't want. We do want this color to be nice and dark. We want it to be rich, but we don't want it to be dark. Like we want it, I mean, we don't want it to be too bright. We want it to be rich. We want it to be kind of dark, but we don't want it to be too bright, which is why I wasn't too worried about, um, like if this was going to be a person who was um, alive and kicking and had a functioning, you know wasn't sitting in the ground for a long time kind of thing, then I would make this character. Then I would have made a more concerted effort to, um, cover this thing in a more grayish color scheme, because it would have created, that brighter, richer color. But this guy's dead, and he's been in the ground for a while. So we want the cloak to be bright enough to see the blue color, but we don't want that to be so bright that it drowns out the rest of his, um, the rest of his color scheme, to where it just seems like, oh my gosh, we're just throwing, like, it's like, wow, some of it looks really, really, you know, crazy bright, and other parts look really, really muted. What is going on? This guy's a contradiction. We don't understand. What is up with this guy? No, we don't want that. We want this guy to look like he's been in the ground decaying. Okay, because he has holes in his cloak. And we're going to deepen this a little bit by using the Drakenhof Nightshade shade from Games Workshop. And that is going to create a much deeper, richer blue. Okay, and it will dull down some of that color as well. So he won't just be like, oh, he's bright, yay. You know what I mean? Like, he's gonna be super, super dark, and we're gonna make sure that you know we pull this down. And so that's what we're going for. I know I didn't, and I'm not making much sense at times, but basically what I'm looking for here is, I'm looking for a deep, dark color, but I don't want it so dark that you can't see the blue. I want it dark enough that, you know, that it looks darkened with age and time, not artificially dark, if that makes sense. And so that's why it wasn't imperative that I, made a concerted effort to make this gray color so standoutish. You know, even though I made it so that I could see the color, I'm not trying to get it to the point where I'm gonna say, "Ooh, look at that! See, it's so bright." I don't want that. I want it to be dark. And like I said, it's probably going to take one or two coats of this to get it to that point. Okay, because it's just, this paint is very thin. And so to get it to that point, to make it the way that we need it, it's gonna take a couple of coats. And like I said, when we reach the point of, where the we're happy with the hue of the paint, then we will sit down and we'll put the shade on, and that's going to really dull it down to where we're going to go nice. So what I think I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to go ahead and pretty much call this an episode. I spent a lot of time explaining myself in the first part of the video because I needed to kind of explain where everything had been going and how everything's been doing and some various things, and then kind of go from there. So when we come back, I will have gotten a couple of extra coats on this guy, and I will have gotten this cloak nice and rich in color. And we'll finish up kind of getting him ready, and then from there we will then go and get him to look nice and dulled down. Shade him up. I've got a couple places I've got to clean up on him, and I bought some new colors. So I went down and I bought a new metallic blue. It's called Midnight Blue from Folk Art. I bought a nice antique copper, which we will probably use on this guy for a couple things. I also bought, let me see, what else did I buy? I also bought a new silver. It's called Sterling Silver. It's kind of a lighter silver without it being like so light that we can't see it. I'm trying to remember the other color I bought, but anyway, it's not a big deal. Basically, I'm gonna get this guy done, and then after we're done with him, we will move on to our Reptus warrior and our beautiful little half elf chick who I'm gonna use for the other gal, and then I'm gonna do this pillar, which I think is gonna be a lot of fun to paint. So I can't wait to paint it up because using the techniques that I've kind of honed on that Osgiliath piece, I think I can make it look really weathered, and I can make it look really cool. And I've got some ideas for kind of draping it in some blood, and kind of giving it some bloody effects and some really cool looking runes. Also on this guy's sword, he's got some little runes on the side of his sword. And he's got some little runes on his various pieces of armor. And I think that's going to be fun to kind of paint up. So, smash that like button, hit subscribe, drop a comment below, let me know what you think of the series so far. And if you followed since the beginning, let me know what you want to see. And if you'd like to see me paint up some Lord of the Rings miniatures, I have a ton left. If you'd like to see me paint up some more other miniatures and various things, let me know. So, as we always say, we will see you on the next one.